Greetings, everyone. Here are the latest analyses of today's important developments. With Iran's warhawks in the crosshairs, the 12-minute annihilation has begun. The entire fleet, once the pride of Tehran, now lies within the deadly zone of MQ-9JP Reapers and Apache helicopters. A large-scale annihilation plan has been activated, ready to turn the ambition to blockade the Strait of Hormuz into a pile of scrap metal at the bottom of the ocean. Shockwaves hit the Gulf, the secret partner was revealed, and brutal retaliation aimed at Tehran. When the United Arab Emirates officially took off their diplomatic gloves to join the alliance with the US and Israel, the geopolitical chessboard was completely overturned. Secret airstrikes deep inside Iranian territory ignited a dozen new attacks, pushing the Revolutionary Guard forces into an inescapable pincer. The end for Iran, the secret agreement in Beijing, and the horrifying death toll on the battlefield. While Russia is shaken by the heavy cost of the war, with over 350,000 casualties, President Trump unexpectedly heads to China to decide the fate of the Strait of Hormuz. Has a death sentence for Iran's ambitions already been signed behind closed doors? Here is the detailed content and analysis. Hormuz in flames, Fujairah paralyzed, Tehran's missile strike, and the brutal response from the US-UAE alliance. Ladies and gentlemen, we're at a pivotal moment on the Middle East's geopolitical chessboard. The fragile ceasefire between the United States and Iran is falling into a state that the US president calls on its deathbed. The latest proposal from Tehran, a document they spent many days and nights drafting in hopes of changing the situation, was flatly rejected by Mr. Donald Trump. In fact, this president didn't even have the patience to read through those lines. He called it a pile of garbage and threw it back to the other side in a bold and decisive move. The tension wasn't just in the newspapers, it was palpable along the strategic coastline. The naval forces of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps of Iran are currently deploying a massive army. It is estimated that there are between 500 and 1,000 armed fast attack boats hiding in caves, tunnels along the coast, and small bays in southern Iran. The latest satellite images from the past week have captured a menacing scene. The formation is in the northern Strait of Hormuz near Kagan's coast. Not only that, the cruise missile launchers are already on combat alert. The drones have been fueled and armed. Iranian military commanders have repeatedly declared on international media that their fingers are already on the trigger, just waiting for an order to unleash the flames of war. In response to that aggressive attitude, President Trump posted a highly symbolic photo on social media. The broadcaster showed scenes of American MQ-9JP drones crushing Iran's fleet of speedboats. This is not simply a political message, but a stern warning about a scenario of destruction that military planners at the Pentagon have already prepared. If conflict breaks out, Iran's swarm tactics will have to face a storm of firepower from above. In fact, on May 14, the U.S. military demonstrated its capabilities by sending 6 of these boats to the bottom of the Persian Gulf as a powerful show of force. Meanwhile, Iran did not sit still either, launching an attack on an oil depot in Fujairah. However, a shocking report from the Wall Street Journal, just published yesterday, has completely changed the picture of this war. What happened was not a random incident. They were just a short trailer for a much bigger tragedy that is about to begin. Now, we can clearly see a master plan by the U.S. military to completely wipe out Iran's fast boat fleet, turning it from a strategic threat into a pile of ashes in just a single coordinated wave of attack. From the kill chain, weapon platforms to smart munitions, everything is ready to permanently change the balance of power in the Strait of Hormuz. Especially the appearance of a shadowy partner who has just joined the alliance against Iran is making observers hold their breath. We will take a deeper look at Operation Freedom, an ambitious plan launched at the beginning of May with the ultimate goal of restoring the flow of trade through the Strait of Hormuz. Admiral Cooper from the United States Central Command affirmed that the U.S. is concentrating an unprecedented level of firepower, including A-64 Apache attack helicopters and MH-60 Seahawk helicopters. These assets have begun to carry out their missions coldly and precisely, eliminating any threats to international merchant ships using what the military calls the clinical application of defensive munitions. Alongside traditional killing machines, the presence of multi-domain unmanned platforms like the MQ-9 VIP and possibly the ZQ-4 Global Hawk is creating an impenetrable web of firepower. These VIPs not only serve as the eyes in intelligence missions, surveillance and reconnaissance, but also become grim reapers when fully equipped with Hellfire missiles. This type of missile is famous for its unpredictable versatility, sometimes carrying a powerful warhead, other times deploying sharp blades to shred targets without causing unwanted collateral damage. This is the nightmare that Iran's fast attack boats will have to face, alongside the hail of bullets from the A-10 Warthog and the F-15E fighter jets. Everything seems to have been pre-programmed in the weekly drills of the U.S. military, where destroying high-speed boat fleets is the main focus of training. Now the Strait of Hormuz has become the final domino in Iran's all-in gamble. However, an important subplot has just emerged, pushing the climax of the conflict to a new level. While Iran focused its forces on Operation Freedom on May 14, they simultaneously launched a barrage of missiles and drones toward the United Arab Emirates indiscriminately. This action not only targeted American military assets, but also directly threatened the stability of the entire region. This has cast the shadow of war over Taiwan and Russia, creating a whirlwind of chaos across the globe. It doesn't stop at clashes at sea. They are taking bold and unpredictable steps. They act no differently than the bosses of an underground organization, yet they hold the launch button for weapons of mass destruction. Even though the regular army has suffered many losses, Iran still has a vast and loyal network of proxy forces. Just imagine how dangerous notorious kingpins like Al Capone or Pablo Escobar would be if behind them there wasn't just a gang, but an entire military apparatus. That's exactly the tough problem the world is facing right now. The escalation reached its peak when Iran launched a barrage of 12 ballistic missiles, 3 cruise missiles and 4 unmanned aerial vehicles directly targeting the territory of the United Arab Emirates. The country's Ministry of Defense confirmed the attack, and although most of the firepower was intercepted by the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, THAAD system, and Patriot batteries, the incident marked a significant escalation. An Iranian drone managed to penetrate the defenses and struck the Fujairah oil and gas industrial zone. Fierce flames engulfed the oil storage tanks there, creating a tragic and terrifying scene. It should be understood that Fujairah is not just an ordinary oil port. It is the endpoint of the only strategic pipeline enabling the United Arab Emirates to move 1.5 million barrels of oil daily to the Gulf of Oman without passing through the Strait of Hormuz. By striking at this vital point, Iran is trying to choke off the region's main bypass route, turning their blockade into a complex matrix like nested Russian dolls. They are not only blockading the sea route, but also trying to eliminate any Gulf partners who dare to find ways around their embargo, even if those are neighboring countries. In response to these attacks, intelligence reports have just revealed a shocking truth. The United Arab Emirates secretly carried out a retaliatory airstrike on the oil refinery on Iran's Lavon Island in early April. Just as the ceasefire was announced, the attack, believed to have used a Mirage 2009 formation, caused a massive fire that forced this facility, which processes 55,000 barrels of oil per day, to shut down for months. Iran admitted this was an enemy attack and responded with heavy artillery barrages against the United Arab Emirates in Kuwait. But as of last night, all limits were erased. Abu Dhabi decided to take off the diplomatic gloves and join the fight directly, a move warmly welcomed by Washington. Now the situation has completely changed as the United Arab Emirates has become the third party to join the fight alongside the United States and Israel. This creates a new axis of attack against Iran, one that Tehran cannot directly blame on Washington, making this already complex geopolitical chess game even more tangled than ever. To understand why Iran is confident in confronting major powers, we have to look deeply into the nature of its Mosquito fleet that they have painstakingly built over more than 40 years. Sun Tzu's Art of War says, "Know yourself and your enemy to avoid danger in battle." Iran views its fast attack boats as central to its asymmetric military strategy, not as a weakness. They realized their regular navy would soon be overpowered by the United States' technological strength, just like the tragedy during Operation Praying Mantis in 1988, when half of Iran's surface fleet was wiped out by the U.S. Navy in just one day. From that bloody lesson, they shifted to a model of warfare using swarms of high-speed boats, small, fast, inexpensive, and easily replaceable. In the narrow Strait of Hormuz, the United States' range and firepower advantage is greatly limited by the terrain. Experts estimate that Iran is operating between 500 and 1,000 of these boats, including the Pay Cap and Zulfikar classes. weighing 14 tons powered by DSN engines. And reaching speeds of over 50 knots, each boat requires only 3 crew members. But they're armed with heavy machine guns and KOSAR or NOR anti-ship missiles, both variants of Chinese technology. These boats are designed to move extremely low on the water, making it very difficult for enemy radar to detect them and minimizing the reaction time of commercial ships. However, this fleet still has deadly vulnerabilities. They have no air cover at all and lack electronic warfare capabilities. In a direct confrontation on the open sea, they cannot survive against the pursuit of H-64 Apache attack helicopters. The reality of the fighting on May 14 proved this, when in just 12 short minutes, 6 of Iran's boats were turned into piles of twisted scrap metal by aerial firepower. This battle is not just a confrontation between military forces, but a clash between a classic military doctrine and the power of modern technology in a fiercely contested survival space. The strength of Iran's Mosquito fleet originally relied solely on their ability to remain hidden among radar signals. Nighttime raids in the hope that U.S. forces would be spread too thin to respond in time. That's when they could attack defenseless cargo ships like packs of hungry wolves. But now the advantage of chaos has vanished into thin air. The Advanced Aegis Defense System, along with MQ-9 drone squadrons, are sweeping every corner, turning these speedboats into sitting targets in the Pentagon's crosshairs. The sea caves and small bays that used to be safe havens are now nothing more than deadly traps that have been precisely located. The way the U.S. military hunts them is similar to how the U.S. Southern Command cracks down on drug smuggling boats. Absolute superiority in technology and target identification. Examining things more closely, we must ask what Iran truly wants. They are craving absolute control over the Strait of Hormuz, an international shipping route where international law only allows sovereignty within 13 nautical miles. But with the mindset of underworld rulers, Iran is willing to trample on international law with the power of its naval fleet to intimidate weaker nations. Their latest negotiation proposal is actually just an obvious stalling tactic. They demand sovereignty over the entire strait, war reparations, the lifting of all sanctions, but completely avoid the nuclear issue. Tehran needs time to recover, needs support from China, and wants to push the global economy to the brink of collapse to force the major powers to kneel. If it were left only to European leaders in countries like Britain or France, Iran might have already reached its goal. But Washington does not. Under pressure from public opinion and the strong support of the Iranian-American community, who have always hoped for a free future for their homeland, the U.S. government is showing a firm determination to completely eliminate the ability to blockade the strait and prevent the nuclear threat. With the cooperation of new partners like the United Arab Emirates, the circle around Tehran is tightening more than ever, signaling an unfavorable end for authoritarian ambitions in the region. The picture of the international alliance countering Tehran's provocative actions is becoming more complete and determined than ever with the participation of France. Although this appearance is somewhat late, as the battlefield has already entered its climax and firepower has begun to erupt, Paris's deployment of a strategic aircraft carrier to the Gulf is still a signal that cannot be ignored. Geopolitical observers might sarcastically say that the French arrived at the party when the oven was already cold and came almost empty-handed. But in this precarious situation, the presence of the French fleet is still an important piece to strengthen the power of the Allied Axis and increase pressure on all of Iran's calculations. The harsh reality on the battlefield shows that Tehran is stepping into a risky game by sending its fleet into confrontation with the world's most advanced interception and destruction systems. The fast attack boats, once the pride of the Revolutionary Guard forces, now are nothing more than targets in an aerial hunt. Facing them are deadly machines like the A-10 Warthog, the AH-64 Apache attack helicopters, and powerful squadrons of Mirage fighter jets from the United Arab Emirates. This is not simply a military confrontation, but a tremendous technological gap, where Iran's swarm tactics are being crushed by the overwhelming power of American and regional partners' fighter jets and unmanned aerial vehicles. Looking at the negotiation table, geopolitical analysts can't help but be amazed by the strange tactics that Iran is employing. They approach the conference table with the attitude of a victim being mistreated, even though they are the ones who escalated the tension to its most dangerous level. Iran is running something that can be called a highly absurd multi-level geopolitical campaign. They invite the world to become partners in what they call the sovereignty of the Strait of Hormuz, with unrealistic conditions requiring the United States to lift all sanctions, compensate for war damages, withdraw all naval forces from the area, and recognize Tehran's right to tax international ships as well as control this vital maritime route, essentially holding it hostage. That is not a genuine peace proposal, but an unreasonable extortion demand targeting the global economy. The situation reached its peak when Iran acted like a patient in a therapy room, complaining that the international community does not understand their needs. Those so-called needs are actually the right to freely deploy fleets in every sea and always keep missiles ready to strike. Tehran even declared that if all their demands are not met, and if they are not allowed to attack the ships of Gulf partners, even when the rules of engagement are in effect, then all the blame lies entirely with Washington. This is a toxic psychological game, a kind of threatening ultimatum. Either the world accepts all their unreasonable terms, or they will unleash their fast boat swarms to cause total chaos. The world is holding its breath to see whether, in the next few days, the MQ-9 Reaper drones will begin to deliver the final lightning strikes against Iran's speedboats, putting a permanent end to the dangerous game that Tehran is pursuing. Meanwhile, in the Pacific, Taiwan has just taken a crucial step by passing a defense budget, especially allocating nearly $25 billion to purchase weapons from Washington, extending all the way to 2033. The first equipment will include the HIMARS rocket systems, the M100 9S7 self-propelled artillery, as well as Javelin anti-tank missiles and TOW-2B missiles. Taipei is not stopping there. They are preparing for a future war with anti-drone defense systems and directed energy weapons. This is a strong response to China's development of swarm ships carrying massive drone swarms, a scenario for a risky drone swarm war. Amid the geopolitical storm, President Trump is expected to visit Beijing in the coming days, marking the first time a U.S. head of state has set foot in China in a decade. Finance Minister Scott Bessent has confirmed that the Iran issue will be at the center of all discussions. China is trying to play the role of a behind-the-scenes diplomatic broker after recently hosting Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, hoping to open up the Strait of Hormuz. However, there seems to be division within Tehran as Araghchi is struggling to control the hot-headed members of the Revolutionary Guard. Will China join hands with the U.S. to arrange a secret deal behind Tehran's back? That remains a key variable in the power game. So in your opinion, is Iran's swarm fleet truly a strategic threat or just target practice in the face of the overwhelming technological superiority of the Allied forces? Can the intervention of France in the UAE at this time put an end to Iran?